Welcome to the Magpies and the Phoenix. I'm back again after a long hiatus. Lots of things went on in the middle of that gap between the March podcast I released and today, and the 26th of May when I'm recording this one. Lots happened in the end of the season. We'll go through that in a separate podcast. I also intend doing a series of podcasts on the season that Phoenix Sports have had, which ended in triumph at VCD's Oakwood Ground with a last minute penalty putting Phoenix Sports into the Isthmian South East. And the story of getting today is probably as fascinating as anything I've ever been through with football. In the, it is over 40 years I've watched the sport. But one of the most popular podcasts I did back in December was an Around the Grounds one, where I went through all the grounds that I've been to. I think it was all the non-league grounds I've been to in the previous year. And I thought I'd round off the season with a bit of a quick one. I don't think it's going to last the full 45 minutes that I usually do for the other games and grounds that I've been to since the turn of the year. In the heading to this post, I talk about the church bells in Torrington. I talk about the big crowds in North Kent in games that I went to. Seeing some of the new grounds in the Wessex League, including did I do an illegal right turn in Portsmouth, which kept me worried. I'm assuming I'm not going to get a ticket for that now. And just generally the great vibe that I'd got going around varied games in the area that I live in now, down in Hampshire, and in seeing Phoenix get over the line. And some madness in going to see my boys at Holsworthy in the Dorset Cup. So without further ado, and let's hoping that this time on take 2 that my dog decides not to interrupt me with his silly little barking, let's have a quick tour around the grounds that I'd been to in 2023. Obviously, the first game I went to in the year on the 7th of January was a Phoenix Sports. We've done Phoenix Sports to death. It's my part of Crayford. It's my little part of South East London. It's my home. It's a ground I've never ever felt more at home in a football ground than that one, with great people, really nice bar, decent food, and a team that I just relate to. And we know that, you know that, that's why I do these podcasts. So the first new ground that I went to in 2023 was on the 10th of January. A little bit of a story behind that. This was the day I was getting my COVID vaccine shot. There's one for you, you anti-vaxxers out there. I got my third shot in Salisbury that day, about 100 yards away from where the Novichok couple were found. There's another little linkage there in Salisbury itself. And then looking at the weather that day was awful. But one game that remained on was Shaftesbury versus Pooltown in the Dorset Cup. It was a semi-final, and so I drove down there. It's an interesting old road, that A30 out of Salisbury going down to Shaftesbury, but this is the land that I live in now, and this is the area that I can go 35 mile radius, no real traffic, and to go and see a game of football. And that night I saw a really good game of football at Shaftesbury. So one of the things I do on this podcast is, well, that got mentioned a lot last time, was the parking situation. Give you a bit of advice on parking if you're going to Shaftesbury. It was a decent crowd, but it was a horrible night, so it wasn't a big crowd. And Shaftesbury's wasn't the easiest ground to park at. So I parked down the side road, not in the car park itself, for the ground. Very dark, don't trust myself in that sort of area. Too tight for my liking. So yeah, parked down the side. And the ground itself, very decent, very nice, very good new pitch. Artificial surface, obviously. Couldn't play anything else in that time of the year. The game, I sat in the main stand for the first half, decent view. Got one of those sort of barriers around the pitch. I'm really not a great fan of those, but I'm understandable for all weather surfaces. So not great for photographs. It wasn't a great night for photographs. But you can walk round the ground quite easily. I stood in the second half next to the home team's dugout. They were quite amusing. The game itself, Shaftesbury lost 3-2, having been 2-0 up at half-time. Pooltown, a couple of divisions higher, got to the final of that competition. And memorable for me for the drive home, make sure you check which roads are closed before you drive home. Didn't fancy that A30 back, thought I'd go back via the A303. It was closed, and now I know where Warminster is. So, that was a good day out, good night, very nice night to go and watch a game of football, to be honest. I was really, at that point, very, very keen to go. After that, Next game I went to was Cray Valley Paper Mills. Well, I've been there a few times that we went because I was supposed to go to Lordswood. Lordswood was called off. Never did get to go to Lordswood. Never went to the rearranged game. It was in midweek. It's too hard for me to get to from Hampshire. The next two games were both at Phoenix Sports. One we won 5-0 on a rainy night. Another one we lost 2-0 at home in what looked like quite a big defeat at that time. But we'll come on to some of the other games with Phoenix, and certainly their away games coming up. So the next new ground I went to was on the very last day of January at Andover Town. Now, living about 8 miles away from Andover, it's probably about as near a team as I can get to where I live in step 5, step 6. They're step 6. And I saw Andover 3 times actually, only once at home, twice further 2 games away from home. That night they played a Hampshire Cup, I think it was, quarter final it might have been, against Handball Club, who are league division above. And car park was good. It's in the middle of an industrial estate. And you drive around this industrial estate, you find the grounds on the left. The stand itself is high above, it's actually quite high up above the pitch, which is quite good for a view. The weather that night was cold, very cold. Excuse me. And Andover won 3-0. Never tried the food. Musical mix was eclectic. And yeah, that night it was a really good performance by Andover Town, actually. I enjoyed the game immensely. I haven't been back. I hope to go next year. I think they'll do quite well in the Wessex League Division 2 next season. I think they've got a lot of promise. Of course, it depends who they keep, who they leave. And there were some good sides at the top of that division last year. But I think on their day, they're a pretty decent outfit, Andover Town. I enjoyed that night, actually. A really good one. And that's why I was keen to go to my next away game, next new venue, which was Whitchurch. Whitchurch United, bit lower in the league than Andover Town. Just off the A34. Again, not nice to park out. I was a bit late that night. I had a bit of work on, and I didn't get out as early as I would have liked, and so I got to the game quite late. It's Longmeadow Sports Ground is the name of the ground. I thought that looked like an enormous playing surface. I've got to admit, it's one of them. It might be an optical illusion, but when you go in there, the pitch just looked massive. I had a great night, actually. I really enjoyed it because I spent it with the Andover Town away fans, about 5 of us. It's not a long journey either, but I stood with them and enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed them having a go at Southampton's then manager, Nathan Jones. They weren't too keen on him. It was a freezing cold night. Whitchurch were not on greatest of form. It was expected to be a fairly easy win for Andover, but it didn't turn out like that. They nabbed 2 very late goals to win the game, obviously 2-0. Could definitely go back there again. I quite enjoyed the night there. As the one big thing that I will not forget about that, and is do not drive with a slightly steamed up window inside, especially if you've got to get on the A34. The ground is literally next to the A34. Bit of a nightmare if you don't know where you're going. So do your research. Make sure you know where you're going when you leave, because otherwise you might cause an accident. I was lucky. I obviously I didn't, but yeah, I got a bit nervous at the end of that, and I thought at that point it was almost, I'm not sure I'm going to do many away games at night around this area. I'll wait for the clocks to go forward and start looking to do some of these trips, and you'll find that in this podcast that's exactly what happened. Next away game I went to was Glebe, Phoenix Sports. I've been to Glebe a few times. They double up with Stansfeld, who I also went to see Phoenix Sports that in April. I did that in the last podcast, so we'll skip over Glebe. On the 21st of February, I made my return to Downton. I say return to Downton because I went there for a game in January, got all the way down there. They told me on Twitter, it's on, it's definitely on, it's definitely on. I got down there, there were no lights on, this didn't look great, got into the bar. Oh, sorry, the game's called off. I went, oh, you're joking. It's about 20 miles from where I live. And I stayed there, I chat with the finance manager, the chairman, Really good people, really, really nice, and fair play to them. They sent me the programme for the game by post afterwards, which was genuinely a lovely touch. I went down there for the game. That game was called off due to I think it was a frosty area. It might be a frosty area for the linesman to run on. The pitch itself was playable, which, sometimes you've just got to wonder. But anyway, that's life. The game I went to in the end, Downton versus Andover, I think was the game I was meant to see in early January. There was a grass car park in February. So if you like a gamble, if you want to gamble that your car's going to get out, good luck, especially if it rains during it. I saw a van struggling. Thankfully, I was okay, Jack, so that was fine. It's parked over the road in the grass car park. The ground itself, pretty dark actually. Got a big sports centre to one side of it, which, necessity and all that doesn't make it look aesthetically the greatest, but that's not anyone's criticism. It's not anything to worry about. Game itself, Downton were fantastic that they beat Andover 4-1. Sam Howe got a hat-trick. It was a nice atmosphere, nice supporters. I genuinely enjoyed my night there. I sat with two guys as we were watching the score run up in the Liverpool-Real Madrid game, if I recall correctly. Two old fellas. They were fantastic entertainment. Really enjoyed my night there. Just the sort of people you meet on your travels that sort of resonate with you. The other thing that resonates with me was I was trying to get a picture of the scoreboard with the final score on it. I'd even left my seat early to try and get that picture. And as I got round there for the final whistle, they switched it off. Thanks, fellas. But no problem. 4-1 to Downton that night. And I do hope to get down again. I was aiming to go to the cup final they got into, which was going to be played in, was it Melksham? Somewhere near Melksham anyway. It was originally Westbury or Melksham, one of those two. Anyway, leave it alone. Didn't go anyway because I was feeling a bit down that week, so never went. So, but Downton are really good lot. And again, I think they'll be up there in the Wessex 2 next year. I think they only just missed out on the playoffs this year. The next games I've been to looking at here, Phoenix Sports Whitstable. Again, Phoenix, we'll come back to that later. Bemerton Heath I did before Christmas. This was a game against Shaftesbury, which they very fortunately won in the last minute. Again, we'll talk about Bemerton Heath a bit, I think, on another podcast. A real success story, and probably my team now down in Wessex, because I just genuinely enjoy the way they played. The next game I went to for a new ground was Axminster Town. Now, this was a bit difficult for me. I really wanted to go and see Holsworthy, and I had a few games planned for them when I was down in Devon the following week, and as it happened, both games that I was going to go to in Devon both got called off through the weather. But it was good to see the boys. I really enjoy my time with Holsworthy. They've had a very difficult season this year. Axminster is on. It's quite easy to find. It's on the main road coming off the A303 down into Axminster, and then actually went into the town itself. The railway line that goes from near where I live down all the way to Exeter goes past one end of the ground. At the other end of the ground is a housing estate. Apparently the ground's been moved out from a supermarket in the town where it used to be, bought over and is now moved out to, I think it's the north. Very open ground, but lovely hills behind one end that just really, if you look from one side, aesthetically pleasing. Looking for the other, you've got a new housing estate being built. So there's the rub. An absolutely magnificent clubhouse. Really nice. Brand new, obviously, or very new. But a real credit to Step 6 football. There's a lot of clubs I've been a lot higher up in the leagues that can't boast those facilities. And the players were very well fed afterwards as well. Car park, get there early. I did, about 2 hours early. Some good National Trust sites just down the road, one up just off the A303 where you turn off. If you like your churches, there's some nice village churches as well, which I took some pictures of because I'm a bit sad like that. The game itself, not a lot to write home about. Axminster won 1-0. Probably most notable for Paul McGrath's brother playing for Axminster. And their Tigers shirt, amber and black. It was just a good day, and the pitch played very well in a very difficult time of year for the weather. Just a very nice club again. I mean, this is not it shouldn't come as a shock. There are very few clubs that come across. I just didn't think that they were credit to non-league football. And again, Axminster was definitely one of those. So having had a rain-ruined holiday in Devon, so I didn't get to see Holsworthy, but they would have been 2 home games, so no new grounds anyway. And pretty much every game in the region was called off while I was there. Jump forward 2 weeks to my next trip. Now, I was supposed to be going up to London, but the trip got called off. So on the 18th of March, I was looking for a game to go to. And again, lots were getting called off in the area. And so I plumped for Bashley against Tavistock in the Southern League South. Where's Bashley? Well, it's in the New Forest. It's south of the town that's in the middle of it. I think it's Lymington. So I haven't got my road map out in me. Why there? Because they were the most assured that they were going to be on. I was looking at something like Hartley Wintney, but they were a little bit less sure that they were going to be on. So I drove down there. It's about an hour away. Go through the New Forest, bit of traffic in Lymington. Got there and then parked up in the car park right outside their ground. Right, turn left. There's the entrance. And sort of wondered, why is there no one else here? So I parked the car, walked up to the steward, said, I'm new round here. It's the first time I've ever been here. Can I park here? Oh, no, I'm not sure, mate. I went, it's either a yes or a no. Sort of, is it? Can you park here? Well, that's the leisure centre there, and they're not happy if there's an event on and someone parks. Right, so that's a no then. So anyway, so get back in the car, and he says there's a car park over the road on the right. Oh, grass car park. It's March. Games are being called off due to the weather. Also, I might add, Tavistock's coach broke down en route at Exeter services. So I was having games at this point called off. I'll come to Ivan Dibden in a minute. And I'm just thinking, this is my luck. Anyway, the game is on. And again, what a lovely ground. It's based in the New Forest. So you've got the backdrop of the New Forest around, certainly around one end. There's decent standing, decent seating. There's a really decent bar there. The club shop guy was fantastic help to me, explaining who the good players were at the club. I had a good conversation with an ex-referee who was a Bashley fan. The game itself was really tight. One of those, they're both on the same points. One or other was going to get in the playoffs in the end. At that point, a bit early to say, but the Tavistock won 1-0. But as it was, I think Bashley got in the playoffs. It was a really hard-fought game on a difficult surface. It was definitely softer, but left it with great pleasure of having been there. And so I hope, again, at some point, especially if they get to play Biddeford next year, or Bemerton Heath Harlequins who've gone into that league, I would like to get a chance to get down there and see them again, because I think that was a really nice place to go, and hopefully in better weather. Actually, the day was actually very sunny. We were supposed to get a lot of showers come through, and we dodged them by some miracle. 370 they said they got there that day. Quite a big crowd. And the thing with Bashley is it's a really small town in the middle of the New Forest. It's not, you wouldn't call it a hotbed or anything, but one of those clubs obviously supported by its local community. Brilliant place, really enjoyed it, and certainly look forward to going back. So the next game I went to for a new ground was on the following Tuesday. Freezing cold night, and the weather was not all that either. Down to Amesbury Town, another game that's quite local to me. They were playing Andover New Street, who would end up winning the Wessex League Division 2, and still not been there. So, spoiler alert, there will not be a review of Andover New Street's ground. Amesbury at that point struggling at the bottom, near the bottom of the league, and were expected to be turned over reasonably heavily by Andover New Street. My sat-nav didn't lead me into the right place first off, but I found my way. You got to go over a bridge and then don't miss the turn off left into the sports centre. You got to go down the road. Massive grass car park. Again, weather not great, bit of gravel there, so you're right. You get early, get on some drier surfaces. There's your car park guide, and you walk up. There's a bit of it's quite a walk to where I parked. I parked right near the entrance to the facility. A ground I would love to see in the daylight. This time, very dark. You got a raised sort of changing rooms area that's raised up, and I've spent most of the first half talking to a Andover New Street official as their goalkeeper and the opposition striker got sent off for having a Barney very early on. It was the other memorable thing for me there was There's a park bench sat on a hill. And I'm minding my own business, doing pictures or recording something for my posterity or whatever, not my posterity, my posterity, for keep it on the files. And I got smashed in there by a ball. Anyway, lesson to everybody: if you go to non-league football, even if there's a kickabout, they're not very good. They miss the goal by a long ways and they hit you. So be careful, everyone. Nice ground. Enjoyed my night. Bit cold. Got very wet at the end. And again, a ground I'd like to see in daylight. But again, another well worth of a Tuesday night out to go and watch Wessex League 2 football. The next new ground, skipping over the Phoenix Sports Area Town game on the 22nd of March, was on the 25th. So the following Saturday after the Amesbury game. Yes, I did go up to London the day after the Amesbury game. That was the sort of thing I was doing at that point in the season. On the 25th, Phoenix Sports were playing a massive, and it turned out to be a massive game away at Deal Town. I think it was non-league football day as well. Memorable for very many reasons. One of which I will go into on the Phoenix Sports review. Deal Town's ground is it's not easy to find. Sat-nav got us there. We didn't go by the coach. We went by the car. We got there down there very early at 1 o'clock and got parked up in the car park next to the ground. There were 750 people there that day. That car park filled up really quick. I don't know where else you park. The bar area's decent, very nice. Got their own beer on as well, if I remember rightly. The food there was very good, if a bit pricey, but very good. It's an open ground. It's not far from the coast. It was a windy day. It was a very bright and breezy football match. And there are two sort of covered stands at either end of the ground. Deal seem to be a club who think they're going to go places. This was, in effect, at the end of the day, a playoff to get in a playoff. And whoever won that game was going to end up second, more than likely, in the league. And it's a game I'll go into a lot, I think, on my Phoenix Sports review. Deal itself, it was a program I think was really good as well. It was a decent experience. A 1-1 draw in the end of the day satisfied us more than them. They battered us a bit in the second half. It was a really good atmosphere. Maybe a ground I'll only go to the once, just because it's so far away from where I live. But an enjoyable night. This was going to be the start of a week of football, and it all just went a bit skew-whiff and off the rails because I just got very down over something that happened at that game. But before I went completely skew-whiff and off the rails, I did go to two other games that week. The first one was on a Monday at Totton and Ealing. It's a game against New Milton Town in the Wessex League 2 again. And is it Wessex League 1? It's the second division of the Wessex. It's Step 6. Totton Ealing, mid to lower table. New Milton Town, there or thereabouts near the top, but not going to win it. The ground itself is right next to the big lot in the league above, AFC Totton. And the ground is literally next door. It's a nice, well-appointed little ground, Totton and Ealing. But there's two grounds within like 50 yards of each other. It would be if they played each other. Anywhere can be more a local derby than that. So the car parking is actually AFC Tottenham's car park, and I still only got in an area right near the back of it. The ground itself is called Miller Park. And I park on next to glass and everything. It was a bit, and people were saying, people get their cars broken into around here. In Totton, that's not far from. It's on the coast going down to Fawley, just west of Southampton. Monday night, I have to say, halfway through the game, I'm going to myself, what am I doing here? But I ended up talking to a really nice guy who was a Southampton fan, and that made the evening, more palatable. It was a good. It was a one-sided match. New Milton Town won 4-0, but it was good to speak to that spectator for the game. Walked around, got a few pictures, but it was a real. If you're a ground hopper, that was a sort of ground hopper football match. I had no reason to be there other than let's go and see a game on a Monday night. I was supposed to go on a Tuesday night to a game. I didn't go. I think it got postponed or whatever. And then on the Wednesday night, I had to go into the office and I booked a ticket, which meant I would get the last train home, which put me on stress level high before you could even think about it. Homestead's based just south of Bromley on Oakley Road. I used to play cricket at against Bromley Common, which is literally next door to this place. The ground itself has seen better days. It's a bit ramshackle. Clubhouse is nice though, so to be fair to them, they've got a very decent clubhouse, but the changing room's a bit primitive, basic. Not having a go. This is non-league football, step 5 football team. Can't be too critical about it. And this would be the parking. Well, no, let's not go there. That was not easy. You had to park on Oakley Road, which doesn't make it easy for you to park. There's no real parking at the ground itself, not a lot anyway. We got there reasonably early, and all eyes on that day were on the weather forecast and the weather. We copped a most awful first half worth of rain. The game started, we missed the penalty and we went 3-0. We actually got 3-0 up at half time. But the rain was torrential throughout, and there weren't a lot of slots left for us to play matches afterwards. And the game was abandoned at half time. That was massively disappointing. I'm counting it as a game because I was there for one half of football, and it's recorded as a game as one half of football. I don't really care if no one bothers with it, but I do. And it was an experience being there. As it was, it meant I got to Waterloo an hour and a half in advance of my train. They wouldn't let me on the train home. So first one train home, so I had to go on the second one and got home about 1 a.m. and never went to the rearranged game, which was played in the last week of the season. So that was Homestead. My next new ground on the 13th of April was at Higher Than Dibden. I had tried to go to Higher Than Dibden, I think in late January. I think it might be the night Southampton played Man City in the League Cup. And I got down there and it had been called off. It was another one that said, it'll be on. It's an hour drive. And I went, well, I'm not driving back down there again until it's daylight, until the clocks have gone forward. And this was a game against my other local team, Bemerton Heath Harlequins. A game that Bemerton needed to win to have a chance to get into the promotion or playoff place in Step 5. Higher Than Dibden itself. I remember the bar for having neck oil, so let's give that a definite +1. I like neck oil. Unfortunately, I am driving, so I can't drink it. I spent the game with the second half with the chairman of Higher Than Dibden by pure accident. He stood next to me, so he was good fun. But he watched his team go from 2-0 up to half time to 4-2 defeat in the second half. What will also be memorable for me is the thunder and lightning coming from the Isle of Wight, just over the Solent, because this is again on that strip of land going down to Forley on the Solent. Spectacular backdrops. Wish I could have got a picture of that. Ground itself, a little bit of covered standing area, not a little bit of a seating area, but it's pretty open. But I was taking pictures of it, and people think it looks quite picturesque. It was nice. Again, really decent people. Enjoyed my night there. Following the Bemerton Heath train to promotion. At the end of so that was played on a Thursday night. So another weird night for football. But Bemerton Heath were desperately trying to catch up on fixtures. The following Saturday, we went to Whitstable Town, which was a game we were very scared of at the end of the season. We felt we had one game that we had left that we could drop points in, and this was the one. Lots of other circumstances around this. The ground itself is the Belmont Road Stadium, I think it's called. So we got down there early because we thought there'd be a big crowd. We got in the car park, a lot of people, and we were very early, about 1 o'clock. A lot of people, 1:30, couldn't get in it. The ground itself is really good. They've laid a new artificial surface. It looks great. It plays very well. It doesn't play too fast. And it's an impressive facility. Looked really nice in the sunshine. Obviously Whitstable Ball gives you a great chance to have a weekend away if you like to do those sort of things. Me, unfortunately, I had to drive straight back to London afterwards. The game itself, well, that one I'll go into a bit on the blog, so I did a big piece on the blog on the next podcast. But I really recommend a visit down there, and Whitstable obviously is a lovely town to go and visit. For that game, I stood next to the manager's bench, and I just said to myself all the time, I wish I could just write a whole blog or a book on just on Steve O'Boyle himself. The ground's great. I didn't really get to go in the bar. Food was fine. Program was good. 2 entrances. Really looked after you. Big crowd. Was it 751? Yep, big crowd. Good day out. If you get the weather. The next game I went to was the following Monday. Now this is where I think I went in descent into madness. I looked at my good friend Ryan, the manager of Holsworthy, goes to me, we're playing Monday. We're playing the semi-final on Monday. And I thought, okay, so maths in the head and time things. How long does it take to get to Holsworthy? Or Google Maps, 2.5 hours, 2 3/4 hours. The game's been played in Torrington, not even Holsworthy. Or 2 3/4 hours. Okay, if I leave home about 4, gives me a little margin for error. Okay, I'll do it. And I went, don't fancy that drive home much on my own. So I went with my wife, which meant my dog had to come with me. And this was for the semi-final of the Dorset Cup. And Holsworthy were playing Torridge side, the game that I'd seen on New Year's Eve. Got to Torrington about 6:45. Took the dog for a walk and a run and a grass area we know outside of the Great Torrington. Came back, didn't try to get into the car park. Not really sure where the car park is other than for the leisure centre. So parked on School Lane outside, got a parking space quite easily. Went into the ground and my wife sat in the main stand. I sat with her for a bit, but did a bit of a tour of the area. It's dead cheap to get into for the Torridge Cup. It was only £3. Didn't really go in the bar, so can't really comment on that. Didn't get any foods, can't really comment on that. But the most noticeable thing about the ground, you sit there, is the Great Torrington Church is just over the back of the ground. And that night, it was bell ringing night. And so for every 15 minutes during the game, you got the sound of bells chiming in the background. It was just another non-league experience. The semi-final itself, my boys won 3-1. Returned there in the final on the 4th of May, where they lost. It was a lot more packed. My dog did not like that at all. But a decent venue, and now I've got Torrington off the list as a ground. And as Ryan has banned me from going to watch Torrington as a club, I've now got Torrington ticked off my list of grounds. So that's that one done. The last new ground of the season for me was on the 20th of April, and that was Baffin's Milton Rovers. Set the scene, I had gone to Monday night at Holsworthy. On Tuesday, the night after, I went down to see Bempton and Heath Harlequins play Portland in a big game for them to get them into the promotion mix, which they won. And then on the Thursday, I went to another game at the top of the Wessex League between Horndean, who were at that time on a massive roll and were winning every game in sight, playing away against Baffin's Milton Rovers, a team based just outside of Portsmouth on that main road that goes off from the M27 into Portsmouth. That I remember the days when I used to go down to Fratton Park many years ago. The sat-nav was about as helpful as it could possibly be and made me miss the ground. So I went down, turned around around about the big traffic lights, a big car showroom, turned around there, came back up, went to the lights I was supposed to turn left at, turned right, and then immediately thought, why is no one else turning right here? I didn't see any no right turns, but I didn't think I was allowed to turn right there. But I did. And then I was confronted horrifically by loads and loads and loads of cars. Car park full. Every little bit of the side road off this main road, parking and driving down and down. There's a surfing club or a yacht club or something down the end of this road with a car park, and the barrier is up. And I'm thinking, oh my, are they going to close that barrier? There were already about 3 or 4 cars parked there, so I parked up, and then next to me parked Zach Willits, who's the striker for Horndean. I think it was his girlfriend, and other members of the family and entourage, and asking me, "Can you park here?" And I said, "No, first time I've ever been here." So anyway, long story short, parked up there, went in there, got permission to stay there from the guys who were running the yacht club, who very kindly left the barrier open, because it was a bumper crowd down there for Baffins and Milton Rovers. Horndean were chasing the title. They were playing every other day at this point. Looked massively leggy. The ground itself, we copped some pretty crap weather in the first half. Other words are available. Rubbish weather, rained a bit. That rain was only ever going to last the first half. But it was a really decent sized crowd there, so you couldn't really... I didn't test any of the facilities for food or drink. It's got character, which I think is sort of ground speak for it. It looks a little bit as though it could do a bit of improvement. But it had a great atmosphere, I've got to be honest with you. Really nice place to watch football again. Very breezy because it's right by the water. And Baffins gave Horndean a decent test. They're a very decent side defensively, Baffins, Milton Rovers, but Horndean won that game 2-0. They would go on to lose to Bemerton on the Saturday. Not surprising, they are probably absolutely knackered having played on the Thursday. But yeah, that was the last new ground of the season. The season, of course, finished off at VCD with the playoff game. So by the end, but I did them last season, like in the end of last year. So of the grounds I visited in the new year, which one was my favourite? And I'm looking down the list trying to think. I think I'd probably go with Whitstable. Good atmosphere, nice stands at either end. The pitch, I'm not a great fan of artificial surfaces, but played well, really good game, massively good occasion, great pictures I've got from it. Terrifyingly awful ending to it. And just a very great day out. And so I'd massively recommend going to Whitstable. I enjoyed Andover Town. I think you got a really good view of the game if you sit in that stand. Shaftesbury's I'd like to see in the daylight and in nice weather. Same with Amesbury, I'd like to see it in nice weather. So, and Bashley, because I think it had a lot of character out where it is. So lots of good places to go. And looking forward to seeing some newer grounds in the new year, given two of my teams got promoted. Had a few new fixtures and obviously going to go and see Andover New Street at some point, who I've gone up into the Wessex Premier League. So I hope you enjoyed that ramble around the grounds. The next phase of the podcasts are going to be on, I might do one on the end of the season, but that will come after I do this series that got in my head, which I'm going to do on Phoenix Sports in a lot more detail for the season, which working title at the moment is The Scuffle for the Scuffle. I think it works, but if I think of anything better, I will. But I hope you enjoyed my little ramble around the grounds. I hope all the non-league fans who've listened to it can resonate with this. I'm not a ground hopper, I'm just a football hopper. If there's a game and I feel well and I feel like I should go and I feel like it's something that's worth my while and has got a purpose, then I'm going to go. Preferably not for the sake of it, but I do love the competition at Step 4 and Step 5. They've been an absolute joy for me, and I have thoroughly enjoyed my time watching games at that level. And Step 6, do not let off Step 6, as Holsworthy are my boys as well. So I hope you enjoyed the podcast. This is Dimitri, Peter, from the Magpies and the Phoenix podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like it, subscribe. There are ways to subscribe. I've done 13, I think, podcasts this year. So this one is number 14. I appear to have lost all my other ones. So this is on a new podcastal setup. So let's hope that works. Anyway, until next time, it's cheerio. And if you love non-league football, it loves you back.